Welcome to the podcast. This is Eric Salzman, joined by Richie Bennett and Kevin Doherty. How are we doing, guys?
How are
Good,
you?
good.
So Richie's reporting to us live from Keeneland in Kentucky.
That's correct.
You're down there doing a little bit of pre-Kentucky Derby caucusing with Big D.
Yes, yes, always, always. And there's probably it's too close to the Derby today, so there's not going to be any runners that run today that will be in the Derby in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But there are some that ran last week
Mm.
and the week before that could be in, and it's exciting times for horse people.
Speaking of exciting times, so the market's jumping a little bit today.
Woo!
Yeah.
I don't know if Richie, you were watching the workouts. So basically, Iran said that they are going to keep the strait. They're going to open the strait
Yeah,
while there's a negotiation going on between Israel and Lebanon, which I believe there's a 10-day ceasefire that I think starts today.
right.
So market went wild when that news came out. So
Yeah,
stocks are everything's up.
I saw
Except for oil.
it's the Nasdaq will now be up 13 trading days in a row, which is the longest streak in 2 decades since
Yeah,
Wow.
since '09.
'09
Yep.
or '08. Yeah. I'm not I was just saying before this, I'm not completely sold on this. Like this is some guy made a comment which was pretty funny. He's like, yeah, there's optimism, and then there's optimism squared, right? Like, and that's what we're in right now.
Yeah.
Like this is like, everybody's going to do everything they said, and it's going to be nice, and everything's going to be fine, and we're just off to the races.
Yeah.
But,
Well, the first
but
thing I thought of, I said, so a negotiating table of Israel, Iran, Donald Trump, and off to the side, not invited, but obviously holding sway is Hezbollah. What
right,
what could possibly go wrong with that with that type of meeting?
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, I may be reading too much into this, but I thought it was interesting. The announcement that they're opening the strait was made by the foreign minister, Iran's foreign minister, Aragchi. And a week ago, I had a dinner with the publisher of a pretty big news media organization, and they have operations throughout the Middle East. They've got people on the ground in Tehran. And he said that Aragchi is the new leader. In fact, he is the leader. They're talking
Uh,
about this group of five, but he's the guy. He's basically the new Ayatollah. So the fact that he came out with this and not the president who had been, positioned as a dove previously, this is the big guy and he's the one who announces it. Maybe we can, have a little more confidence that this might be something that'll last.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he may be the only guy left alive. Israelis are pretty much taking care of everybody else. So yeah, so anyway, everything's up today, including Bitcoin. There hasn't been
Yes,
a lot of news for a while to talk about with crypto and Bitcoin, and
that's
today
right.
let's get into it. Kevin, talk to us.
Yeah, as you said, there hasn't been much to talk about, but it's looking quite positive here. It was looking positive, frankly, even before this announcement out of Iran, which came a little over an hour and a half ago. So Bitcoin had been hovering around the $75,000 level, and that's been a significant resistance level and a significant technical barrier for some time, where it's approached it and just got batted right back down. So a lot of people have been watching that and seeing if this time Bitcoin can actually break through. A couple of other interesting things. I'll step back a little bit. The first quarter of this year was the worst first quarter for Bitcoin since 2018. It's down 24%. Um, but interestingly, we've talked before about how the futures are very important for crypto. So futures trading, they're called perpetual futures. It's this instrument that was basically created for crypto, but it's hugely important. These futures actually trade a lot more than spot Bitcoin. It's actually about 4 times more trading volume in these perpetual futures than you get in the spot market. And the way that these futures trade, or the way they're structured, is that the holders have to pay what's called a funding rate. And so normally people who are long the future will pay a funding rate to those people who are short the future. And that's the way the market balances out. And if the market is in perfect balance, meaning the same number of longs and shorts, you get a positive funding rate of about 8%. But what had happened in the last few days is that the funding rate went deeply negative for these Bitcoin futures. And that means that the market, that if you're long the futures, you're actually getting paid to hold those futures. And if you're short the futures, you have to pay the people who are long. And it's a decent counter indicator. So it basically implies the market is heavily short the futures, because over the last 2 days, those futures funding rates have been the most negative they've been since 2023.
Mhm.
And so 2 days ago, the rate was at minus 16%. So that's the amount annualized that you would have to pay. Today, right before this Iran news happened, it was at minus 8.5%. And basically, what that means is that there are a lot of people who are short, that if the market moves higher, they're going to have to scramble to cover those shorts, and would
Mhm.
add momentum to a positive breakout. So, yeah, all the pieces are in place for Bitcoin to potentially break out of this pretty miserable bear market that it's been in since October.
It's great. Yeah, strategy's up a ton today, right?
Yeah, it's up like 15, 16%. But they've been aggressive buyers in the market the last few weeks. And so yeah, that stock has recovered something like 35, 40% over the last few weeks. So it's back from the dead. We also found out earlier this week that Kevin Warsh, who we've talked about, friend of the podcast, hopefully, uh, he disclosed the assets that he owns and his wealth. And amongst all the other typical things that you would expect to see, he's got quite a lot of exposure to crypto. And he's got a lot of exposure to a big variety of crypto names. So, not Bitcoin and Ethereum. He owns the stuff that's deeper down into the weeds, the decentralized finance stuff that we've talked a little bit about. And he had something like 30 different investments in different crypto projects that he disclosed. Now, they did not disclose the value of each one of these positions, so I suspect they're probably pretty small. But what they indicate is that he is at least aware of all the technology and the potential of this area, and he dipped his toes in the water. So
Mhm.
that's it's interesting little factoid.
So he then also came out and said, as most good Fed governors do, that he is going to bar any kind of positioning himself if he gets nominated and put on to the Fed chairmanship. Meaning he's not going to trade. He's going to have a blind trust or what have you that trades for him. But as is also the case in most of these things, he knows what he has. Dude.
Yeah.
So that could be a very big trigger for what's going on with crypto right now, because they know whatever he doesn't know about his own personal holdings, he's probably not going to make a lot of decisions that try to hurt crypto just out of, you know, spite or hate or whatever. He's probably going to be more crypto friendly, whatever that means. You know,
Mhm.
rates go high, rates go low. But I'm guessing that's more toward a lower rate environment that helps the old crypto go and everything else with the risk on.
Yeah, definitely on the short end. I mean, that's kind of his and Besson's, and he and Besson, I think, are very like-minded. Some people are worried about that because that could maybe that the Fed's independence could be threatened by the fact that the Treasury Secretary and the Fed governor, or the chairman of the Fed, I'm sorry, are working kind of hand in hand with each other. It's happened in the past. But what Warsh and Bessent both are very skeptical about the Fed's gigantic balance sheet, which is now about 6.5 trillion. And they've actually stopped the balance sheet from running off, treasuries running off. Every treasury that matures, they've been putting a certain amount back in, all of it back in, I'm sorry, but into the short end of the curve. So what Bessent has talked about, and I think Warsh is a proponent as well, is kind of they call it a shadow monetary policy coming from the Treasury Department, meaning that if Warsh says, we got to start selling some of these long dated bonds, what Treasury will do is they will stop issuing long dated bonds or significantly reduce the supply of new issuance, and they're going to issue more on the shorter end of the curve in bills as opposed to the long end. So they've obviously thought a lot about this. They've obviously thought this has been a bee in Bessent's bonnet. No pun intended, I guess. But like they've thought a lot about. You could tell, how do we reverse this monetary policy? So I think for crypto, it could be great, right? Because now the issuance of the short end of the curve is going to kind of balance out the fact that he wants to lower rates in the short end. But I think he'll do that at the expense of the Fed's portfolio and kind of get things back to where they were before 2008, when we've had this whole new policy where the Fed basically has this floor on short-term rates on Fed funds and has to keep it there. So I think this could be another really positive development for crypto and for the market in general, because Kevin, as you said many times, liquidity is the main thing, right?
Right. And not to get too technical, but doing that, issuing more short-term bills and to replacing the long-term debt with the short-term stuff increases liquidity in the system. It's the banks have to hold less collateral for the short stuff than they do the long stuff, and so they're able to. So it's
Excellent point.
What I was also amazed at was, like, a couple of buddies were like, "Hey, yeah, did you see how much money this guy Kevin Warsh is worth?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's his old lady. He's married to Estee Lauder, the daughter, the granddaughter." And they're like, "No, dude, check it out." And so he listed assets, right? He had those two funds. One of them they were funny names. I forget, like the Be All and End All Fund or something like that, right? Each of them had like $50 million, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. So, maybe his wife is like, okay, you're smart, like invest that stuff. So he listed like 100 million as assets, or 100 plus million. She has listed assets of like $1.9 billion. Like that. It sounds like none of this money is hers, right? So this guy has made all this money. So it's like, wow, okay, right
Well,
on.
he's had
I
like
know
very.
he had a good relationship with, and still does, with Stan Druckenmiller, right?
Sure.
Who worked with Bessent, who worked with Soros, and so they would pay him. He wasn't I don't think he was an actual hedge fund manager, Warsh, but he
He's a
consulted
consultant.
them, yeah, on what to buy or what not to buy, which is basically a hedge funds trader. But,
Right.
but yeah, like they said that he got fees from Druckenmiller of like $10 million over time, right? And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, what's with that? What do you think? I mean, he's a very bright guy, but he hasn't been with the Fed for quite a long time. And I mean, he's had this great relationship with Druckenmiller and others, getting these great, certainly excellent consulting fees before anyone was even talking about him. Like, now I could see it, right? Because now it's, hey, get on this guy's good side because he's going to be the chairman. But this is going years back, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He hasn't been on the Fed. He hasn't been on the board of
No,
governors, I think, since
long time.
12, right?
15 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could see
Interesting.
now that all this gets disclosed, right? Or to the extent that it can be disclosed, whatever it is, I can see why, like, some of these guys in the administration currently are like, oh, no, he's great. Like, that guy knows his stuff, because he's made money in all these markets, not just crypto, that are front and center for everybody still today. So it's kind of like, all right, yeah, that's the guy we want to make the decisions as to whether or not these assets stay good.
Right.
or not.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, what's interesting is that, or maddening, is that Trump just can't stop, right? Like he can't just let this ridiculous investigation go and just boom. Powell will leave. Tillis from North Carolina will say, "Fine, I'll confirm Warsh now." But until that happens, and you saw this week, I think a couple of days ago, Trump came out and said he's going to fire Powell if he doesn't leave.
Hmm.
And I don't think it seems to be the chips are definitely stacked against him being able to fire Powell. I mean, you really need cause, and even then, and he's basically saying even if Powell stays, um, he's going to fire him from the Board of Governors now,
Mm.
which is like, and I mean, does someone have to sit Don down, and maybe it's Junior and Eric, and say, this guy Warsh is really good for that business that supposedly you know nothing about that we're doing over here, the crypto business. Like, wink, wink, you may just want to let this go. Okay.
Yeah,
Like,
let him play. Yeah. The
He also owns a bit of Polymarket, which is
just a
Yes,
because
bit,
that's one
yes,
of our
just a bit.
favorite topics of.
yes, he does. He saw that one from the very beginning, which is pretty good. I just think that he I think between he and Besant, they do, like you were saying, Eric, that they do have a good idea. Whether or not it works, we shall see. A lot of factors can happen that but he's definitely got a plan, right? He's got a plan. And I would have loved, though, to have been like at the on the construction site, I believe it was, where Janine Pirro sent two of her lawyer guys to demand, not like ask, but demand like a tour of the new building that they're doing, or the new renovations at the Fed. And I think the guys in the hard hats are like, who are you? What? No, you have to leave now. Maybe with chainsaws and stuff. Like, okay, let's get out of here.
Now,
But
here's a
they
theory.
like tried to see what was going on in the construction
Yeah.
site. I'm like, dude, that's a little crazy.
Well, here's a theory I have now that you said that, Rich, I'm thinking about it. Now, Trump Sr. may have gotten a little upset when they stopped his construction of the East Wing Ballroom in Washington in the White House. So
Mm.
perhaps that somehow refocused his attention on the construction and building over at the Fed. And maybe he's like, if I'm not getting my ballroom, you're not getting it. You're not getting your new Fed building.
Yeah.
Something like, I can see
Yeah.
that.
Or let's like compare costs. Like, I'm over budget or you're over budget? Who's over budget?
Right. Yeah.
So it'll be fun.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, good stuff. Let's let's switch a little bit because I saw a really funny, scary article recently. I think it was either early this week or late last week. And um, so Mark Zuckerberg at Meta, he has built an AI mark, right? And the
Right.
AI mark will be infused with all of his personality or lack thereof and all of his insights and
Yeah, his
intelligence.
witty self. Yeah.
And the AI mark will speak to employees. So now when the boss says my door is always open, it is open, right? Because they're going to speak to AI mark.
Are they gonna like outfit like keyboards with like the talk to Mark button? Bing.
Probably. And he could talk to like 50,000 employees at the same time having different conversations all at once. Like, can't you can't
I
you just
love
see
that.
this?
I love that. That's got to be some kind of comedy skit. Somebody's got to
Well,
be thinking about that right now.
I'm glad you said that.
Okay.
Is one of my favorite, and I don't think we're going to get in trouble with Tim Dillon by playing a bit that he did. But he did a bit a couple of weeks ago, and he's on this. He's always on this about AI and basically the tech, the tech overlords. And he was talking about how it doesn't matter if it's Zuckerberg, Altman, whatever, Peter Thiel. They all horrify us, right? I mean, when they start speaking within a couple of minutes, you're like, holy crap, like this guy's out of his mind, and he's like basically in charge of things that could change the planet overnight. So I want to play this for you. This is good. So Tim Dillon thought like what tech needs is a Dave Thomas from Wendy's. They need a better spokesperson. So I'll play this for you. I can figure out how to do this. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah.
But do you now? Can you play Sam Altman for a minute? Just any, by the way, anything he's ever said. Just you hit Sam Altman and hit video. Anything Sam Altman's ever said. Let's compare this. Here we go. Here he comes.
Their model provider is going to look like selling tokens. You know, they may come from bigger or smaller models, which makes them more or less expensive. They may use more or less reasoning, which also makes them more or less expensive. They may be running all the time in the background trying to help you out. They may run only when you need them if you want to pay less. They may work super hard, you know, spend tens of millions, hundreds of millions, someday billions of dollars on a single problem, right? That's really valuable. But we see a future where intelligence is a utility like electricity or water, and people buy it from us on a meter and use it for whatever they want to use it for. The demand that we see for that.
Now, by the way, very disturbing statement. It's about the end of of course, it's all about human obsolescence and humans not needing to think or whatever. And then eventually they'll have to figure out how to kill them all. But think about a Dave Thomas type selling that be a little better. Dave Thomas being like, sometimes being smart takes it out of you. Sometimes being sharp takes it out of you. But we're building a real smart machine. It's going to be the smartest machine you've ever met and your best friend. And if you need a little bit of smarts, you can just buy it. I'm Sam Altman. Boom. OpenAI. Sometimes you don't feel like being a smarty pants. You just want to buy intelligence from our big friendly machine. Our machine's brilliant. But instead, this guy's like, intelligence is a utility. You will buy it from us on a meter. You will live when we say. You will consume what we allow you to consume. We are the government. There is no government. What is the problem? The government is an illusion. Capitalism is a scam. It is fine. No one at my company who died did so in any way that could be considered suspicious, even though they are kind of suspicious.
I hope he hired extra security now too.
It's dead on, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's exactly right. Utility.
Well, speaking about AI, and then we'll go to where everybody wants to go, Richie in Kentucky. So I just read this morning, is that we've been on the whole private credit thing for a while, and we've taken a little bit of a break from it, I think, the last couple of weeks, probably because of Iran. It just kind of fell. It's still happening, but it just kind of fell out of the news. So I read an article this morning. You remember how we talked about how all the major commercial banks have lent huge dollars to all these funds, Blue Owl and Apollo and Ares and all the rest, KKR. Well, the article this morning says Wall Street banks are tightening their arrangements with private credit funds, raising interest rates and marking down specific loans posted as collateral. So it started. Essentially, the banks have gone in, they're like, look, I think to some degree, they're like, you let us in and we'll go and figure out what these loans are worth and mark them where they should be marked. Or A, you don't get your money, or B, you get it at a higher rate, or C, we want you to swap those loans out of the portfolio. Basically, we want new collateral, right? So can you imagine what's going to happen when these guys have to say, all right, look, JP doesn't want these 50 loans anymore. They're ready to mark them all down. We got to replace them with good ones. So we're going to take the good ones, and what are we going to do with the bad ones? Well, they said, not every bank is marking things the same, right? So for all you know, they could sprinkle those 50 bad ones to other funds, right? That they're not getting marked down. So it's starting to happen. The leverage in this, and as you know, when they mark things down, the leverage component goes up, right? Because the capital component goes down, or if they take losses, and then that's when it all kind of start with. That's when the rating agencies come in and say, you're breaking, your leverage is too high. You need to basically raise more capital or basically unload positions. And I think you can see just from the fact that it seems like all of the banks, it's JP, Goldman Sachs, and Barclays, are exercising their right to write down individual assets, prompting private credit fund managers to swap out holdings of the pools. So I imagine a lot of funny business is going to happen, which is what the retail investor's for. And I don't know if they'll go into continuation funds, just like the private equity's been doing, where they can't get rid of something, so they can't cash out the existing limited partners, so they create a continuation fund for new guys to get in. I'm sure this is going to happen with private credit, but now the banks are actually actively involved with looking at the loans, probably for the first time. Like they seem to fail to look at the loans when they made the loans to the private credit company fund. So now I guess they're going to do that. But this is going to create, I think, all kinds of it's just another negative headwind, I think, for this sector, which I think we all believe it could be a big problem.
And it's funny too, because that now, as we've been speaking, obviously we talked about the markets rolling to record highs, but all of a sudden, all these, Blue Owl that we talked about, KKR, all these places with private credit that are publicly traded companies, those stocks have jumped now. So like people are like, oh, that problem must be over. Like they've gotten their house in order. And again, if maybe they do, but you're going to need some help with these rates being lowered. And who knows if that's going to happen. We keep talking about Iran. I mean, in the big picture, like everybody's excited today, and it's great that oil prices are coming down. That'll help everything. But we're still talking about $90, right? Like a barrel of oil is $90.
Yeah.
Like you said to me 2 months ago, oil is going to be $90. I'd be like, this is no bueno. Like no. And people have excitement because it's not at 150.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when you're paying $4.20 a gallon in the US, which is what you're paying, that leaves a lot less money for other things. And that's
Sure.
what people have to watch over time. Like that's going to cut into corporate earnings. That's going to cut into, private equity making money with these small businesses.
Mhm.
It all is related. So we have to, make sure we're not getting too euphoric.
Right. Yeah. And again, what we have to remember is that a ton of production has been blown up, right? I mean, it's not like the war ends tomorrow, everybody goes back to doing business. Like these guys, it's going to take months for them to essentially repair, fix, whatever it is. And it's already starting to come out. So now they said I just read this so the Iranians are saying you can come through the strait, but here's where you can only come through this very kind of the narrowest part of the strait closest to the Iranian shore. And they have the right, the Iranian, the speedboat navy, I believe, has the right to check out and see who you are and what you're doing. So it's not like the strait has been open and it's back to business. Even if all the production is blown up and stuff, it's still not open. They're going to establish a narrow corridor, and Trump's already said we're not lifting the blockade. So I mean, I maybe I'm always too much of a perma bear, but I just think I think it's a good opportunity to unload, to be honest with you. Certainly in the rates market. I bought this morning. You remember PFIX, the Harley Bassman? It's this guy, big guy, Wall Street guy, great mortgage guy, and he developed an ETF where essentially it makes money when rates shoot up, long-term rates go up, and implied volatilities go up a lot. So that's been getting smoked the last few days, especially today. But I just think I think this is going to be a short-lived relief rally, and then we could end up back in the soup, within a few days. So just for a trade, I put that on this morning, just some more.
Yep. Yeah. Again, should we be trading at all-time highs? Maybe. I don't know. But it certainly has happened really fast versus where we were, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So I'm not off to the races. I'm like, okay, I'll buy stuff that I think makes sense. Maybe that hasn't rallied so much.
Hmm.
I still haven't found anything today. Like I'll look over the weekend and see what, you know, I still think the food companies are okay, and they just keep getting trashed every day, and they just make
More ConAgra.
yeah, maybe, stuff like that. General Mills.
Hmm.
I still don't know what we're eating if we're not eating that stuff. Like, okay, everybody can't have, specialty kale with, homegrown Brussels sprouts for appetizer, right? You kind of need somewhat affordable food to put on your family's plate and eat.
Yeah, but that's not even in the CPI. Don't worry about that. That's a
Yeah.
volley. That's not in the core
Why,
CPI.
why would we put food and energy in any kind of a price thing? Like
Oh,
that's
and housing. It's
yeah,
a
yeah. I don't have to do, I don't have to drive
healthcare.
to work. I don't have to eat.
Car insurance,
Nah, that's
hazard.
all
How
of the
much
stuff. Strip that all out.
how much did it cost you to fuel up the monkey business jet for your little trip up
Oh, it
to
was it was it was
Kentucky?
a lot still because we
Yeah.
hadn't had the rally. But Sunday we may get some relief. I'll call the guys today and try to lock in that rate. You guys watching what's happening to jet fuel? Lock that in. Have
So
that done on the tarmac.
speaking of looking for value, so we got Richard. So you tell us where you are and what you're doing. Well, don't tell us everything you're doing, but tell us,
No,
what
no,
you're doing.
no. I'll leave out
And
the R-rated parts. Yeah.
and and we got the NBA playoffs coming up too.
We do. We
If you
do.
have anything there, I'd love to
Yeah,
hear it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm in beautiful, beautiful Lexington, Kentucky at this moment. We tried to get a little man on the street or woman on the street live podcast today. Didn't work. Maybe next time. At the track, which is Keeneland Racetrack. Only 3 weeks of racing in April, 3 weeks of racing in October. It's a wonderful place. I recommend anybody who can go. It's different than Louisville, which hosts the Kentucky Derby in a couple weeks. This is more Louisville's more like high end A-listers, blah blah blah. Keeneland is the place people go that really love the horses and they know. Like there's like nice, you can see like nice people. I think half the staff that works here is like volunteer retirees. They all have like their uniform is like green jackets, like the Masters, but the green is the color of Keeneland. And you can like be walking down the row and hey, ma'am, can you help me get a burger? Do you know where they? Oh, honey, right over here. Where are you from? Like so nice, like friendly. So we like to enjoy it here at least once a year. We're here. So today we're going to be investing
Investing.
in the horses, and there's it's a pretty good card of races today. There's 10 of them, but we'll wait till the 8th, 9th, and 10th races to give recommendations because we want you to have fun if you're following the racing today. But the 8th race, we're going to go with the number 10, Unitas, as in Johnny U.
Oh,
And he has shipped in from the fairgrounds, which is in Louisiana. He's doing okay. He's only had 2 races, but he won his last race, and he'll be about 4-1. So that's a good one. Number 10 in the 8th race, Unitas. In the 9th race, we're going to go with Eunomia, which is the number 3, but it's spelled Eunomia. So I think somebody's trying to play a funny trick there somehow, but Eunomia. Also, probably going to be 5-1. Shipping in from Gulfstream Park, which is down in Florida. And that horse has done pretty well down there. So, and that's a big race that he is in. It's a $400,000 stakes race. So they don't mess around in Kentucky with their horsing. And then the final race today, the 10th, we're going to jump to Twirling Claire, which is the number 7. And that's ridden by Tyler Gaffleone, also coming in from Louisiana and the fairgrounds. 2 races, a 2nd and a 3rd. So to recap, in the 8th, let's go with the number 10, Unitas. In the 9th, the number 3, Eunomia. And in the 10th, 7, Twirling Claire. Yes, so now the NBA. NBA starts, they've still got their play-in games, and we've talked about it in the past. If you still haven't gotten your wagers in to win the championship, the whole thing, we are on record with picking the OKC Thunder, the Detroit Pistons, and the San Antonio Spurs. Play all those three to win the title. Yes, you will lose 2 of those bets, minimum. But if one of those 3 win, you're going to be happy because the odds on Detroit, right? Eric and I have already placed this in. Detroit's like 22-1 to win the championship. I mean, they're the number 1 seed in the East. Like 22-1, really? Okay, I'll play. I'm ready. But like tonight, there's still a play-in game, and the play-in game they started this to get more people into the playoffs in the NBA, which is fun, I guess. If your team hasn't made it in a while, now you're in, which is exactly what's happened tonight. Charlotte, the Hornets, haven't made it in, I don't know, 7-8 years, but now they're in. And if they beat Orlando tonight, they get the prize of playing the Detroit Pistons in a series. But this is a 1-game playoff game, and we're looking actually at the under, which is about 217, the total points of under in the Charlotte-Orlando game tonight, Friday, April 17th, in the play-in game. So we got a lot of stuff going on, especially like right now, we can enjoy. I hope the weather's good. Sounds like the weather's good in a lot of places around. And then we place our 3 late wagers in the horses. And then by the time that ends, the NBA game will start at about 7:30. So you can get a full slate of action today.
All right. Lots of good money-making picks. So what? We like Bitcoin, we like PFIX, and we like Richie's horsey picks and the championship, the 3, the Detroit, San Antonio, and
OKC.
All right.
And you can buy the futures on those, right? So then you can, let's say 3 of those make it to the
yeah,
the conference
sure.
finals. Then then you're golden. You'll be
our friends at Kalshi and Polymarket will produce those markets for you all day long.
Right.
Yeah, you could just be like in Trading Places, right? Sold to you, sold with your winning wagers already in the bag.
Exactly.
All right. Good stuff, guys.
All right.
See you next week.
Excellent.